I have some really good news for you today. Actually, it's really, really, really good news. But first, a question. Imagine you're 12 and you lose your pet dog. Now, you've had this dog for your entire life. You're 12 years old, and your dog just passes away. How long should you feel sad for? And why should you feel sad for that length of time? Have a chat to your friend and come up with an answer. Okay, how long should we be sad for? Sorry? As long as it takes? Yeah? How else should we be how else? Anyone else? 6 months? Who said 6 months? I'm a really bad thrower, so if it doesn't go to you. Yeah? Why should you mourn for 6 months? Did someone say 2 hours over here? Yeah? Okay. Now, sorry. 4.5 years. I like that answer. There you go, sweetie. Oh, see? Can't even throw that close. Okay. Oh, yes, one more. Till you get another dog. Ah. There you go. So I've never had a dog and had it die when I was 12, but we had a girl at school. She had a dog. They'd spent $10,000 6 months before to keep it alive a little bit longer, and it passed away. 3 days later, she was still sad. So her parents took her to a psychologist, and she got a diagnosis of depression and medication as well. When sad things happen, we should be sad, shouldn't we? Yeah. And on the next slide, you'll just see, I have way too much time. I've done a little bit of study, and I'm a biblical counsellor. So on Tuesdays, I'm at a school, and I hear things from children that would hurt your heart, but it's such a privilege to be that safe person for them. And I have my own private practice, a lot of parenting, a lot of family, a lot of teenage girls that I walk with. And who am I? Have I had struggles and lament as well? Absolutely. Miscarried a baby due to the unkindness of another. It was my 4th little baby, and I was unable to have the 6th that I dreamed of having. For 20 years, I was in a very dark place in a relationship that was not kind. And I've known the sting of injustice, and it hurts, doesn't it? But we have good news for you today. And when you lament, when you cry, you need to do it well. And as you listen today, listen for yourself, but also the friends around you. Cry well. When things hurt, cry well. The science world will tell you if you don't cry well, you will implode or explode down the track. And our Bible tells us, God's word tells us to lament well. He knows the best. Science is catching up with things of God. I love it. I love it. They're actually, I'm talking about now the power of forgiveness in the clinical world. Isn't that just, I laugh, it's so fun. They're going, yeah, we're meant to forgive, and that's what God taught thousands of years ago as well, isn't it? So, lament well. How do you lament well? I don't know. You might cry. You might scream. You might write. You might run. You might write poetry. Or if you're a young girl, like one of the girls that I'm working with, she goes into the bush and she talks to her phone and she records her lamenting. And then when she looks back over the month, she sees where God has taken her. Lament well, and let your friends lament well. And that might mean you go to McDonald's and you sit there for 3 hours and listen to your friend just talk. And you sip your Coke, no sugar, frozen Coke, no sugar. And you might say 5 words, and that's okay. And they thank you so much for helping them because you just listened. Or it might be like my other friend who lamented for 2 years. She would tell me the same stories over and over again. And that's okay. Let your friends and let yourself lament well. It's important, and it's the starting point for healing. Where do you run? When you're lamenting, what do you run to? Now, the world runs to lots of different things, and I want you to have a chat with your friend next to you and come up with 5 things that the world runs to when they're hurting. And if you happen to choose my 5, I mean, there's lots of things, but I'm going to just share 5. There are a few lollies left for you as well. So I'll give you about a minute, chat with your friend. Where are 5 places the world runs to when they're hurting? Okay, now my props aren't exactly the match up to the things, but they're representative, okay? So this is my Australian Counselling Association magazine, but actually represents pornography magazines, and obviously you can get a lot of that on the internet, or relationships. Don't people run to wrong relationships, whether it's short-term, impersonal, all those sorts of things. And why do they run? Because for the moment it feels good, doesn't it? But long-term it's not going to be helpful. It's not going to satisfy. So if you said relationships, pornography, anything like that, you can give yourself a tick. These are my sugarless C vitamin Cs to represent drugs. Some people run to medication, don't they, to numb that pain that they're feeling. Others will run to alcohol, and this is my ginger beer to represent that. So some people run to alcohol. Maybe some of you chose that. Sorry? Or run to the pub, yes. Yeah. Some people run to food, don't they? And it's not normally something like an apple. It's more like a donut, but that was on my dining table this morning. There's no donuts. So people run to food, don't they? And they run in 2 ways. Sometimes they overeat. Sometimes they choose not to eat. And that can just be as hard. And actually, eating disorders is the number one way teenagers, in terms of mental health, the eating disorders is the number one way that is is awful for that. Or you might go shopping to try and numb the pain. And this is 100 Rand, won't buy you much unless you're in South Africa. Still won't buy you much there as well. So shopping is another place people run. Did anyone guess by 5? Did anyone get 5 out of 5? Anyone get 4? Oh, we got some 4s. Anyone else get 4? Well done. Well done. Oh, some 4s? Anyone else get a 4? Okay, anyone else get a 3? Get 3 of them. Oh. I think you got one before. Oh, that's really a bit dangerous, sorry. I shouldn't do that. Yeah, so we can run to different things, and we run to these things because for a moment they make us feel good, just for a moment. But there's something and someone you can run to that will transform your life, and that is the beautiful news. We will all lament. If you're not lamenting right now, you know 5 people who are. And if you're not lamenting right now, you know you will have valleys to come. When I look back over my years of walking with Jesus, 50 years now, and I've never strayed from him, there's lots of valleys. That's just part of life. He promises us that it will be hard. But there's 3 beautiful things that will come from when you run to God. And the first one, next slide, thank you, is you come to know that there is a loving God who is just there for you. He never, ever is far from you. And he loves you desperately. And for myself, with my lamenting and my valleys, I've run to him and I've held on to him. And he has never, ever failed me. And there's something about being in the deepest, darkest day of your life where you can cry for hours and hours, or you wake at 2:00 in the morning and the tears are streaming down your face, you're crying in your sleep, and you sob for hours afterwards when you're awake and you remember the pain that you're having at that moment, that there is someone with you. And it makes all the difference in the world. And I have a relationship with Jesus, and I think it's all right with him, but I just chat to him all the time. Just chat with him all the time. And before the big seasons of Lament, he was over here. But when I've learnt just to speak to him about every little thing that happens, I just feel so loved and so cared for because I have Jesus in my life. And he's there, and you can get to know him. How do you get to know anybody? You talk to them. You spend time with them. Talk to him, spend time with him, and you will feel love like you have never known before. So that's love. The second one is things level out in your life. And when they're level, it's like things don't matter so much. So the photocopier at work breaks, and this is when I was in a public school. All the teachers are swearing and complaining and totally being stressed out because the photocopier doesn't work. I think, oh well, I'll do whatever I need to do tomorrow. Things just are more level, and you don't worry about the things that you used to worry. And so you can sit in a car on your own, and you've just been to see the specialist because you've got golf ball-sized lumps on your body, and you sit there in the car with this envelope that you're about to open and get the results. And yeah, there's emotion there. But I can sit there and take a moment and say, Jesus, whatever this report says, I know you'll be with me in that. So there's this levelling that happens. And you get transformed by that when you live every day with this loving God. So loving God, levelling, and then there's this yearning that comes in your heart. When I was in my deepest valley where I was crying for 6 weeks for every day, it was like... I want this world to end in the sense of I want to be in heaven. I want to be in that place that's perfect and good and gives me this yearning and turns my eyes to the things that are important and things that matter. And that's just a beautiful, beautiful transformation from there. So I think we're back a slide, if that's okay. From there, yep. So that one, yep, and then the next one. Thank you. Awesome. So they're the three things that will change. And last year... in COVID, I'm not sure what you did, but I wrote 100,000 words on thankfulness. I mean, it's just something that you can do in COVID. And it was so fun. You're reading all these reports and these studies, and they're saying, all the importance of being thankful. What does our Bible tell us? Be thankful in all things. Science, again, is catching up with Jesus, and it's just beautiful. Can I encourage you to be thankful every single day? If you just, at the end of the day, just write down, whether it's on your phone, on a book, wherever, one thing that you're grateful for in that day, within 3 months you will notice a difference in every part of your life. Takes your eyes off yourself and you are so grateful for things. I did this at school once. I was a teacher before I was a counsellor. And a beautiful bunch of Yew girls that just hated the world, basically, the uniform, maths, everything. And I said to them, because it was maths, at the end of the lesson, we need to write down 10 things that we're grateful for. And they're going, that's not maths. I go, yes, it is. You've got to do 10 things. And at first they said, we don't have 10 things to be grateful for. And I said, really? You woke up this morning and your nose was still there? Imagine if it wasn't. It would be mess everywhere. And what if your skin wasn't there? That'd be really gooey on your sheets, And they go, and what if you didn't have thumbs? And so over the term, we got to this point where they were racing each other to see how many things they could write out at the end of the lesson to be grateful for. So I gave them the goal, let's see who can be the first to get to 1,000 things. And it transformed those girls and transform that class as well. So a little challenge for you. Look for a pocket of joy in each day and find something to be thankful for in each day. Thank you. Next slide. I love this. So yourself or your friend is really, really struggling. You're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help them. What's that very next thing that they need to do right there? It can be as tiny as getting out of bed. I've walked with someone and that was their big thing, just to get out of bed. Another tiny little thing might be just to get out of your pyjamas. or have a shower. Or have a shower and wash your hair. Just whatever that tiny next thing is, just do the next thing. Looking ahead looks too big. How am I going to manage? How can I walk through this valley? It's too hard, it's too dark. But if you just, yourself and those around you, encourage each other to just do that very next thing, that's going to help you move towards the light, because you move to that thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. It's beautiful advice, and that's from an author called Elizabeth Elliot. I'm not sure if any of you ladies know her. She's one of my favourite, because she just preaches God's word and God's truth. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so we've got those 5 things. We're going to lament well. We're not going to rush it. We're going to be honest. We're going to be raw. We're going to find expressions of that. One of the young girls I was working with at school, her expression was, rather than punch the brick wall and break her knuckles 3 times, was to get a punching bag to express that well. Run to God. We can run to the things of the world, or we can run to things of God. And what 3 things will we get? We'll know a loving God. He'll level us out, and he'll give us a longing for the things of God and the things of eternity. Do the next thing, however small that is. Be thankful in the midst of the mess. Every day will transform you. And look ahead. Look ahead. And Ryan's going to hand out some cards just as I tell this last little story. And it's quite a fun one. It was like about 5:30 at night. This is a few years ago. And you can do this sort of thing when you're single. My friend rang up and said, "Hey, come to this movie. It's a mystery movie. Don't know what it's going to be, but would you like to come?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we're there at 7 o'clock for this movie. And it was this real life story about an undercover cop. And there's all these scenarios, and he almost got caught so many times. And we were like literally on the edge of our seats going, "Oh, he's going to get caught, he's going to get caught." Because it wasn't a Hollywood movie, so we knew that like it was a real story. So if it was a Hollywood movie, we know, yeah, sure, he's going to be fine at the end and save the world on the way. But this was like, oh, okay, what's going to happen? And we were on the edge of our seats, and we were just like, oh no, phew, he got out of that one. And then the next scenario would come up and go, oh, is he going to get caught? Is he going to get caught? And and then the story ended the way the story ended. And, we were on the edge of our seats. We were just so tense about what's going to happen. And we didn't even eat our popcorn. You know how much you pay for popcorn at the movies? We didn't even eat our popcorn. We were so nervous. Now, if I sat and watched that movie again, I would sit back in my chair. I'd just be nibbling and enjoying my popcorn. Why? Because I know how the story ends. When you know how the story ends, it should transform everything that you do, every day of your life, because you know how the story ends. I do, I don't, and I do. I do know that you will have times of lament. I don't know what they will be, what the solutions will be, how long they will be. Some of you will lament for all of your days on this earth. But I do know that there is a day coming when you will experience perfection with Jesus. In my darkest day, I imagined meeting Jesus face to face. That first moment when he looks at me and he puts his arms around me, none of this world is going to matter. It is just a dot. And I have all of eternity to live with Jesus. And it inspires me to live well and love well each day. I want every part of my day to be honouring to him. So as you lament, turn to Jesus. He's there for you. And remember how the story ends. So soon, so soon, you will see him face to face and you will be with him forever. Just take a moment to imagine that moment.